The story starts with a young girl left stranded after a bunch of goblins attack the carriage she's riding in. Just as the goblins are about to finish her off, a mysterious boy shows up out of nowhere to save her. Fast forward a few years, and our protagonist Lewis is asked if he'd like to join a girl's party. Everyone around loses their minds when they hear that this girl actually wants to team up with him. Lewis himself is shocked, but the girl points to his sign, clearly advertising for party members. This girl is not backing down. She insists on joining him and proudly declares she's a martial artist. Lewis then awkwardly introduces himself as a sort of healer. But before things can go any further, an Adventurers Guild employee named Amherst rushes over, ready to stop this girl from making the biggest mistake of her life. Amherst then reveals that this guy has earned himself the nickname the Incompetent Lowest. Sure, he's a healer, but the dude only knows the most basic spell called Heal. He's just another labyrinth orphan like many others who lost their parents and had to become adventurers to survive. But even after all these years, Lois can't even cast an area heal or anything higher than the beginner spell, so he's infamous for being a complete joke. But despite his reputation, Lois somehow managed to join a party called Lightning Sword until they kicked him out recently for not knowing detoxification magic. Word has spread and now nobody wants him in their parties because, well, he's totally useless. Amherst, still trying to protect the girl, warns that if she parties up with Lois, she'll never make any money. But the girl Naru casually drops that she's already loaded. Amherst freaks out when she sees just how much cash Naru is lugging around, quickly explaining that most of the adventurers in this town are basically gangsters. The crowd of tough-looking folks around them proves her point, and she warns Naru to never flash that kind of money. Naru politely thanks her, and Amherst immediately realizes this girl is a total newbie to adventuring. So in true hustler fashion, Amherst offers to introduce her to a beginner's party, of course for a fee. But Naru shocks everyone when she flat out refuses because she's been dying to join Lois' party for a really long time. Lois and Naru then head out to sign some papers to make their party official, but Naru's practically burning holes in Lois' skull with her stare. For some reason, she's got this weird admiration for him, and meeting him again feels like a relief. Then the little oddball gets totally thrown off when Lois tells her to sign her name, but she quickly pulls herself together. Lois covers the guild fee, and just like that, their party is now officially. Once outside, Lois starts rambling about how no one's ever reached the deepest part of the Mardet Labyrinth. It's still shrouded in mystery, and no one even has a clue who or what the final boss is. Adventurers flock to Mardet City, hoping to strike gold, turning it into one of the biggest cities in the nation. Lois, being the psycho he is, wants to dive straight into the labyrinth right this second. Meanwhile, Naru's wondering if that's even remotely a good idea, considering their party is barely a few hours old. And also, before they left, Amherst gave Lois the heads up Naru's a newbie, so he should only take her to the grasslands for now. The labyrinth leaks magic power, spawning monsters in certain areas, and the grasslands are one of those spots. Thankfully, only weak monsters show up there. It's supposed to be the perfect training ground for rookies, but it's also annoyingly huge, making it hard to find anything to fight. The labyrinth, on the other hand, is jam-packed with creatures, and that's exactly what Lewis is itching for. He reassures Naru they'll be fine as long as they don't wander too deep, and if things go south, he's got it under control. His confidence is pretty wild for a healer, but he brushes it off like it's no big deal, and they press on. When they arrive, Naru insists on taking the lead. After all, she's a martial artist, so it makes sense for Lois to back her up as the healer. Lois does all for her confidence, but he can't help but wonder if she can actually fight. Naru quickly shuts down any doubts as she demolishes a group of goblins, and Lois is genuinely impressed. He explains that adventurers make their living by selling the magic stones monsters drop, and the guild buys them because they're valuable for all sorts of things. But he adds that she should already know this, even as a beginner. Sadly, goblin magic stones aren't worth much, so if they want to make real money, they'll need to take down stronger monsters. They both agree to go deeper into the dungeon for better loot, and Naru even vows to protect the fragile healer if anything goes wrong. Not long after, it's actually Lois saving her when he stops her from stepping on a trap. He shows her where she almost met her maker and explains that he spotted the trap thanks to the different colored tiles. Usually spotting traps is a thief's job, so Naru is baffled and asks how Lois did it as a healer. Lois casually replies that he's been an adventurer for a long time, so he's picked up a few tricks along the way. As they venture deeper, they come across a half-orc, which shouldn't be on this level of the dungeon. Half-orcs are mid-level demons, and their tough, hulking bodies make them a real challenge to defeat. Their strength is on par with monsters from the lower levels, so seeing one appear is definitely not normal. Naru's instincts tell her to turn tail and run, but Lois is convinced they can take it down if they work together. He doesn't want to push her into it, but to his surprise, she agrees because she trusts his judgment. Naru then kicks off the fight, but she's shocked when her first attack feels like she's kicking a brick wall. The beast may be slow, but Naru still takes a hit and things quickly go downhill. She finds herself cornered, the fight turning against her, but strangely the half-orc doesn't finish her off. Just then, Naru's eyes widen in disbelief as Lois comes out of nowhere, driving his sword right into the orc's chest, saving her at the last second. Lois is relieved that Naru's okay, but she can't help but wonder if this guy is really just a healer. Lois, as usual, brushes it off, explaining that his years as an adventurer taught him a few close combat tricks. Naru, still skeptical, points out that his attack didn't exactly look like a simple trick, but Lois distracts her by noting that she's injured. Naru tries to shrug it off, claiming it's no big deal, but Lois' healer instincts kick in. He knows even the smallest wounds need proper attention. Naru insists she's fine, but Lois heals her anyway, not taking no for an answer. The magic stone left behind by the orc is much larger than the goblin's stones and packed with way more magic power, meaning it'll fetch a nice price. Lois, satisfied with what he's seen from Naru's fighting skills, suggests they've earned enough money and can call it a day. But ever the fighter, Naru insists she can still go on, so the two continue, ready for more hunting. Later, Amherst is floored when she sees how many monsters Lois and Naru took down in just one day. So she quickly realizes Lois must have dragged the newbie into the labyrinth, and to make matters worse, the fact that they brought back an orc stone means he took her to the middle level. But Lois corrects her, saying they only went to the upper level. The orcs shouldn't have been there, but this lines up with what other adventurers have been saying. The higher-ups have been scrambling lately, so Amherst starts thinking something big might be happening in the labyrinth. Her mood quickly shifts though, as she's more than happy to pay them for their haul. Naru's weirded out by how excited Amherst is, so Lois explains that guild employees get a pay raise when they buy magic stones, but only from the adventurers they're in charge of. The more Lois and Naru earn, the more Amherst gets paid. Lois, still shocked by the size of the payout, has to be reminded by Amherst to split it with Naru. Lois would never forget, but he's stunned because even after splitting it, it's still 10 times more than he's ever made before. That realization hits him hard, and Lois sinks into a deep depression. Amherst steps in to explain to Naru that Lois had been completely swindled while in the Lightning Sword party. They never gave him his fair share of the rewards. Naru's absolutely furious when she hears this, and she demands that the guild do something about it. But the decision is up to Lois, and he chooses to let it go. He's happy with his new party, and just wants to forget the past. As they leave, a mysterious man watches them from the shadows. Later, the greedy Amherst is counting her hard-earned cash, but she's startled when the man appears. It's Handsome, her boss, and he's worried she might have helped Lois find a new party. Amherst brushes it off, saying she doesn't have some magical power of persuasion strong enough to convince someone to join Lois's party. Instead, she explains there was just this girl who saw something special in him. Handsome seems to know who this blue-haired girl is, but for some reason, it clearly troubles him. That night, Lois is shocked to find out that word of him getting a new party member has already spread like wildfire across the city. Apparently, the notoriously incompetent Lois picking up some poor fool to join his party is big news. Lois then moves to reserve a room, and Naru gets flustered at the idea of sharing one with him. Lois quickly decides they should sleep in separate rooms, but this seems to leave Naru a little disappointed. They go into their rooms for the night, and Naru's thoughts drift back to when she was healed. Turns out Naru was the girl from the carriage, and Lois was the guy who rescued her. After he healed her, she was so grateful. But Lois, in typical fashion, apologized for not being able to do more. Despite all that, Naru stayed weirdly optimistic, even though the goblins probably massacred everyone else in the carriage. She didn't seem to care and just swore she'd become an adventurer. From that day on, Naru was dead set on joining Lois' party, promising to protect him. Since then, Naru's been training like crazy, waiting for the chance to be by Lois' side. Then the moment she heard that Lois got booted from his party, she rushed straight to the city. The little stalkers thrilled her plan worked perfectly. Not only did she form a party with Lois, but they even took down an orc together. She's doing everything for him, so it crushes her when she realizes he didn't even recognize who she was. It makes sense though, her appearance has changed so much since then. But that's not the only thing that's different. Lois is way stronger than she remembers, and it doesn't seem like he even needs her protection anymore. Snapping herself out of it, Naru reminds herself of her promise to protect Lois no matter what. She then re-energized to get ready for bed, but one thing still bugs her. How in the world do people call Lois incompetent when he's actually insanely powerful? That's it for this video, guys. If you like this new series, leave a like for the next episode. And subscribe for more Anon content. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.